Listen, Ronnie, I think we are here.
We are here. We're here. We're here.
Listen, I didn't even know if I wanted to play our track, although it's like the best track in the world, but I
No,
didn't know.
you need to play the track. You need to play the track. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
okay, well, let's play our
Yeah.
track, Ronnie,
Yeah,
and then
that's right. Maestro, please.
yeah,
I
let's
love
get
this track.
back.
Calling your phone, why you not hitting me back? Please just pick up, don't wanna go tit for tat. Arguing on versus this then this that. Killing my vibe, now I'm writing this rap. This is not another love song, girl, you got me at me strong.
I'm sorry. I'm digging this. Listen, I had a day of days when I tell you any and everything, as they call it Murphy's Law, that can go wrong was going wrong. And usually in times like this, Yashika, or times like that, the day that I had, I can put on some Otis Redding, Teddy Pendergrass, whatever. Today it was all Wu Tang Clan. Today when I Wu Tang, and I went straight hood. I'm like, okay, we're gonna get this done. And listen, I don't need to tell you the track. Anyone who knows if you New York, you know Wu Tang. Wu Tang is forever. So shout
Right.
out to the brothers in Staten Island. But that was the kind of day I had. And then to come here and the challenges that we had. I needed to hear the track song. I'm sorry, I just had to hear it. So thank you.
I am glad that I can abide your wishes, Ronnie. Listen, welcome to a Thursday, and we've been having some difficulties, so we didn't start late. We just had to. So if you're catching us, we had to go off and then come back and then wait for all the universe to talk to each other. Welcome to another Thursday of the Ronnie and Yasheka's dating discussions. I am your host, Yasheka Foster, affectionately known as the artist of dating. And for me, I'm just about getting down to the heart and soul of what stops us from dating and how do we make sure that we don't repeat those same cycles of toxicity when it comes to dating. And so tonight, as always, my handsome co-host, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Good evening, everyone. I am your host, Ronnie Walker, master coach of exceptional dating relationships and sex. And we achieve all of that through the efforts of self development. And I thank you all for your continued support. And how are you doing today, Yashika? Everything's good?
I am doing well. You know, I did something today that I hadn't done in what's this year? 2022? Probably in about 5 years. And so it was an all-day thing, and we'll see what happens. We will see what happens. And I tell you, sometimes you just have to see what the universe has for you. And so
That's true.
other than that, I'm a little poorer than I was the day before. But I really am. Life happens, but other than that, I am grateful, and I'm using your words because again, I always say, and that has been my word for I think the last 3 weeks, perspective. Because when you really want to look at what's going on in your life, and you think that this,
Hmm.
that, and everything. Listen, it's about perspective. It's about where you are. And if you look at something else and say, you know what, this might not be as bad as I think it is because it's about perspective.
It is. It
So,
is. It
and I
is.
think I say it all the time. If you want to know how your day, the man with the two legs was going down the street and he thought he was having a bad day till he ran into the man without two arms. You know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
had
Absolutely.
one was without two legs, one was without two arms. It's about perspective, you
Yeah.
know.
Exactly.
And so yeah, that's I
Exactly.
think the last time we met, I think I talked a little bit about that because I remember talking about the two men. Even then.
Yes.
Huh.
Yes, I'm.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is about perspective, and I think far too many people forget that. But the beauty thing about if you have built healthy relationships with people, or working on a relationship within yourself, those lessons will be pop out at you. Even and that was part even when I spoke about earlier, just a few minutes ago, when I really thought about it and why I use the word grateful. And I'm saying, wait a minute, with all that's happening and all that's going on, if this is all I really had to worry about today, you know what? It's really not that bad. It'll do what it's going to do. But in the end, I'm still grateful that is pretty much with all that happened today. I can still maneuver and do what I need to do to get things done and still make it in time so that we can record this show. So no, I agree. Perspective is where we're talking about. It's where we're at.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, on a positive note, let's see what positive did you experience this week?
Wow, positive. There was a plethora of things. However, I'll give further details later, but there's some things that's moving forward that I'm really happy that they are now, we're winding things down here. I have a lot of things in the cauldron, and I'm using cauldron because we're talking about Halloween and all of that. But no, I have a lot of things stirring.
That word.
And yeah, and so with that, I'm really happy that certain things, or as some people would like to use the word seasons, is closing out on this. And I'm really happy that things are finally moving forward. I can do that so that I can take the remainder, this fourth quarter of 2022, into the next gear. And that also includes the show. So that's, again, very vague, but nonetheless, I can assure you, for those of you who are tuning in, just continue to keep me in your thoughts and say, listen, just keep it going, like I said. And I'm looking forward to that. That's the one positive thing this week, that I got some confirmation on some things that is moving forward. How about you?
For me, I think, oh God, where do I want to begin? I think it just boils down to, no matter what's going on, I don't know who need to hear this, but I'm here to tell you to just keep going. Like, keep going. Because when I look at just everything, even this last year, because I think that this is October, so you and I are well into a year of doing the Ronnie and Yasheka's dating discussion. And no matter what obstacles we have, and no matter what comes our way in terms of personal life, especially me, we've tried to show up, over these last 14 months, I think it is.
Absolutely.
And so we don't know what that one thing is, or that one thing will be. One thing I can say is, even when we skip a couple of days, we still come back. And so it's about consistency. And so keep showing up. And I think I don't know who needs to hear that, but somebody needs to hear that, to know to just keep showing up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's funny you mentioned that, because that was something this past week. I'd gotten a couple of phone calls from people who noticed when we're not there. Just so when you think people are not watching, they're watching, and they're getting some value from this. And for their own personal reasons, they didn't want to make themselves known. They said, Ron, I really want to ask this, but you know what? What you're doing is good. And I see what you're trying to do, and just keep going. So no, that was one of those things as well. So I'm grateful. And it's just that in the space of all that's happening for the day or for the week, it's good to hear those words. So you're right. It's all about just keep going. So I think those words were timely, and someone is hearing that, I'm sure.
Yeah. And I was looking at someone's YouTube channel. And of course, the Ronnie and Yasheka's dating discussion streams to YouTube, and then there's other people, or excuse me, my other platform streams to YouTube as well. And I was looking at someone who I kind of like. I like their framework of the way in which they conduct their YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And when I looked on their YouTube this past week or so, they had like 1.2 million subscribers, right? And so I thought to myself, okay, well, and then I looked and saw how long they had been on YouTube. And then the third thing I looked for was how many videos that they had posted. And over the span of about 8 years, according to YouTube records, they had posted at that time 204 videos, right? And so I thought about my numbers, and I looked at how many videos I posted. And out of their 204 videos, I posted about 40% of their video content, right? Meaning in terms of numbers. So not quite 50% and not quite 40. And so I said, well, let's just say that I do the other percentages, meaning that between my videos and the amount of videos they posted, will I get to 1.2? Right. But then I thought about it. I don't know what the beginning of their story looked like. It may have been when they hit video 200, in which they all of a sudden got 1.2 million subscribers.
Exactly.
You understand what I'm saying? And so that's why it's like, okay, when it comes to us looking at to the left and to the right and what other people doing, we do not know their story. We don't. And then on top of that, it's about where other people are in their lives at that time that will resonate with your audience. So in their particular case, maybe it was something going on in the world where people were searching whatever it was that they have. You know what I mean? And maybe those people aren't really searching for those things no more, but those people are still around, or it's just about where everybody at in their lives. And then we have to take into accountability of what we've done over the last couple of years, and how some people are at the point where, you know what, during these since 2020, March 2020, we didn't all watch so many YouTube videos until we don't really want to go on YouTube no more.
Right, right.
In other words, it could be anything. And so, like I said, one thing about it, I don't know who need to hear this, but it's about um, being consistent in perspective. Because literally, if I was to do a comparison, I can say, well, if I'm at 30% of their video content, right, or well over 30%, about 40% of their video content, then I should be at 40% of the amount of subscribers that they have, right? You would think if it was basic math, right? But it doesn't work like that, because, like I
No, it
said,
doesn't. No, it
so
doesn't.
those people after they hit video 200, and so it's definitely about perspective. But anyway, now that we have shared the good, the bad, the ugly, and some positive, we are talking about cuffing season, because it is that time of year again where it's starting to get cold, and cuffing equates to snuggling or whatever. So Ronnie, go ahead and explain to the people exactly what cuffing.
Now, here's what I'm gonna. Um, oh, why am I losing this? What's that term in poker? Oh my goodness. When they come to you and then you pass it to the other person. Oh god, why am I spending minutes since I play poker? But
Poker?
anyhow, yeah, it's something. It's what's this? Not pass. It's okay. I gave and I passed the prior live. I gave what I felt was a definition of cuffing season, and it sounded like you said your definition was different. So I'm going to pass it back to you, and you tell me what cuffing season is.
Well, I was going to give the book definition of cuffing season, which is the
Okay.
time between October and February when it
Mm-hmm.
starts to get cold. And so people are looking at getting into relationships because they're thinking about, well, I don't want to go through the winter alone. But then there are some things that I do know about cuffing that the audience won't know, but I just wanted us to define what cuffing is.
Okay.
And so that's the time of the year when people start looking into relationships for various reasons. The outcome, we'll talk about the outcome depending on where they are. But it's definitely that time, because when you think of cuffing, think of handcuff. So
Mm-hmm.
you cuffed to somebody or handcuffed to someone. And so that's when they think about, well, let me snuggle up or cuff with somebody so that I won't be by myself, because we might get snowed in, it's cold, and it's better with someone than sitting by the fire by myself. So that's how cuffing started. And it's not a term that's been around forever. Um Again, they gave the name to it about maybe 20 years ago, give or take, and it's just really gotten really mainstream popular over the last few years, because I had never heard of it for many years, and then all of a sudden I heard it, and then I wanted to do my own research on it when I heard it. But other than that, that is the definition of cupping. There's positive and negatives to it, but we'll get to that. But what's your definition of it?
It's pretty much the same, but you mentioned the word relationships, and it was a term that before it was known as a cuffing. They used to say, okay, well, I want not a miss right, but a miss right now, or Mr. Right, but a Mr. Right now. And I really thought about this over the years because again, I'm going to be talking pre-internet when men and women were talking in the spaces, and being a native New Yorker, this was something that I heard all the time. From 18 and up, that soon as those leaves started falling, it was like, okay, it's time to get something. And I'm saying to myself, well, hold on, you were lackadaisical in your efforts during the summertime because everybody wants to be, well, now what some people would call hot girl summer or guys, or it was that season. So now it's getting cold. So I'm like, so what's the motivation in the winter term that you couldn't find in the summertime? Because in my mind, I'm going, well, the same incredible things that you can do in the winter, you can do in the summertime, just different places and whatever. But I'll get deeper into that later. But it was what many people think, and I see, and as I said earlier, you'll see it on social media now where people putting the application. And it's not really, again, they're talking the Mr. or Ms. right now, not Mr. or Mrs. Right. And I'm going, okay, so what they're saying. So when springtime comes, him or her is at an end because now it's time to get that body working and things of this nature. And this is when I call it I'm like, well, it sounds more like settling season because if you're going to get rid of the person at the end of the quote unquote cuffing season, then you've settled. That's not who you really want to be. It's just something that you want to fill the space. But again, I'm sure we're going to get deeper into that as the show goes on.
Yeah, and I was gonna bring up a clip, but with the type of internet that we've had, I'm afraid to bring up the clip because I don't know. I don't know what these internet folks is doing and what these what is it the internet people doing. So but anyway, just someone else's viewpoint on what cuffing is, and I was listening to it about an hour ago, and it was just a clip that was about 4 minutes long, but in the first 2 minutes didn't matter. It was the last minute and a half to 2 minutes that I thought was interesting. And so I actually did a Instagram reel yesterday. I was in DC day before yesterday, and that was one of the things that I did was create a video about cuffing season as well as an Instagram reel that I haven't posted yet. And so, and I was just thinking about cuffing season as a whole and some of the benefits of it. Well, before we talk about the benefits, let's just talk about the non-benefits of cuffing season. And from a person's perspective, and I think that you probably have about two non-benefits, and I'm sure I can come up with at least two of them. But one of the things that I find that cuffing season can be very challenging is if only one of us know that we're cuffing, and it's just something that's going to go on, through the winter months. And that's one of the down sides of cuffing, because if that other person don't know and they're seriously into the relationship, then you can get some hurt feelings. And so when I think of cuffing, I think that it definitely has to be an open conversation, because I saw, a matter of fact, I think it was this time last year where there was a show that came out. I can't think of what it was. I can't think of what it was, but anyway, I remember the guy and the girl running around because they had waited too long to find their partner, and so they were running around, looking for the big guys or whatever, or looking for the big people so they could cuff with them because they was like,
I saw, yeah.
What was that? What was that?
That was. I don't know if that was on Instagram or TikTok, whatever. I do remember saying that. That was funny. That was funny.
It was the Megan Good movie that came out last year. I think it was on Amazon.
I saw clips of that. Yeah.
And so her friends had been waiting too long, and so they were running. They was in the stores hanging out. They was like, "We gotta find somebody." Like,
yeah, I saw that. That was yeah. They showed clips of that on that. Like, what movie is this?
And I guess people, when they're not intentional about it, I guess that's the thing. Unfortunately, and I remember you mentioned earlier about what we used to call it, which was pretty much I remember it being said as a person don't let grass grow under their feet, or I remember even using the term myself that if one of my husbands had a tail, the other husband would have sat on it because of it was just, you know, I mean, that was just me. I mean, we didn't get married right away, but in terms of relationships, it wasn't that much of a, it wasn't a big gap. We dated 4 years, but for the most part, it no grass grew under my feet. So when I think about those terms and when I think about things like that, I think that that's what cuffing season, when you said that, because it was during that time that I met him, you know what I mean? And so it was, of course, not knowing what it was, but we often in the past, especially as old souls, related to things that we've heard other people say. And so, and I know I said a lot to say that my one would be definitely it's not good, or it could be very detriment if you are cuffing and the other person doesn't know that they're cuffing. And so what is one of the ones you would think that is like
Here
no.
is, I am grateful, blessed, thankful that I've learned a lot when I was young. And when I say young, I will say late 20s, early 30s. And I don't say that, I don't want to come from a space where I'm better than everybody else. But it's cuffing season is like a friends with benefits with a goal, right? And end game and knowing that what it is. Overall, I'm not a fan of it. If just because, you so when you put in the application, when people put in the application, some people are playing and some people are serious. Both people know that it's cuffing season. But again, this is why friends with benefits, cuffing season, somebody, someone, somewhere gets caught up. And then without making this into a whole science moment, there's reasons as to why this happens, either on the male side or the female side. Here is if I had to say what the second negative, let's just say they both know and agree to this. Here's what happens that I think is a negative. The time that you're spending with this person that you know is not the one, you're now not allowing yourself the energy, the the space to meet that person. Or you've met this person and now you're in the middle of cuffing season, you're going to have to tell this other person, look, I met him, I met her. I think this is the one. Do you take a chance or are you going to wait until or try to string this person along? I believe you're taking yourself out of a space that you need to be because who's to say? In a perfect world, yes, we would meet the right person in the spring, in the fall, or in the summer. But that person could be there you'd meet in the wintertime. So I think the negative to me, that second negative, is that you're not in the space that you need to be. If you really are intentional, if you consider yourself an intentional man or woman, you're not going to meet that. There's a chance that you're not going to. Now, it may happen. Again, people are going to date how they choose to date and operate how they choose to operate. I just think that if you're intentional, then that should not be part of your repertoire. But again, this is Ronnie talking. But in 30 years, I've spoken to more than enough couples where people have met while they're Christmas tree shopping, shopping for clothes, shopping for the kids, or just having a cup of coffee at a coffee shop, and you locked eyes with that particular woman or man, and the sparks happen. So again, you could. Listen. I far from passing judgment, but I think that one negative is you're taking yourself out of a space that you could be best used to meet that person you were deemed to be with for the rest of your life.
Well, I hear what you're saying, but I'm gonna raise you. I think that's what you were saying in poker.
Bring it, bring it.
Raise you. Okay, so I raise you this. So here's the thing. There's an old saying that also says that, usually I don't know how it goes, but it's one of those things where you don't even meet somebody else until you're in a relationship with somebody else. It seems like that's when other people notice you, because I've heard people say, well, when I wear my wedding ring, it seems like everybody want me. But when I take it off, then I'm no longer desirable, right? Because people want what they know they can't have sometimes, right? And so it just
Hmm.
seems that way. And so I say that because, okay, so you are in a cuffing season, right? With someone, and you meet somebody else, not intentionally or whatever. It don't have to be, I mean, it didn't have to be any of that, but who knows? I mean, stuff happens all the time. I mean, you just happen to be at the right time, right place. Now, here's the thing about cuffing season. Like I said, back to my original. If we in the month of, you said Christmas, so we talking about December, which means cuffing season start in October, but nobody meets each other on the day one. Okay, let's just say we met one November, and we might cuff. You know, we don't know if it's some. We don't know what's there. We just feeling each other out, and then you go out and or the guy, because it clearly ain't the girl. He go out and he somewhere and he meet someone that just like knocked him off his feet. So what do he do? Risk the opportunity that he may not never meet her again, right? Because that might be the one that got away, because we always hear those stories. Or do he say, well, oh my God, okay, well, we ain't really doing nothing. So what's up? And exchange numbers, exchange information. You ain't got to use it, but we all know the intent sometimes is just as bad. But I mean, all I'm saying is stuff happened. That's all I'm saying. But that's just me trying to raise you one, because I mean, you go 50 years and you don't catch nobody's eye in the supermarket, and just so happened that one time you in the cuffing season, you meet somebody's eye in the supermarket. I'm just saying
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, that happens. And because if we're going to use extreme examples, then let's use them all. Then that is how it happens. Look, we're talking about dating discussions, ladies and gentlemen. And again, so Yashika may have a different view than me, but I tell men, listen to me. If you're an intentional man who is looking for someone, now, if every woman, listen, in dating, technically we're all feeling each other out. And again, Yashika and I talk about the different styles of dating. You can just go one at a time. You can go six at a time, 20 at a time. I could give a damn how you choose to do that. I can give you what you may consider pros and cons of each one. But one thing I do know is that dating takes faith and discipline and accountability, because and I also, today I did a Facebook Live and I talked about the price of admission, because there's a price of admission in everything, and there is a price of admission in dating. And you know that price of the first thing I mentioned? Well, I mentioned focus and discipline and all that, but I also focused on, and I said, there's one thing you need to have is you need to come into the dating space healthy in the best way you can, physically, mentally, spiritually, and all of this. So if there's any issues that you've had with prior relationship, marriages, or passing, then you need to handle that so that you can get in and give your full attention to this person in front of you across the dinner table. Why? Because it's only fair if you're intentional. Now, and here's why this helps you in either way that you choose to date. And I know this is a long answer, but I'm getting to a point here. If you're intentional and you've put in the work and you do one at a time, you can right off the bat hit red flags. You already know what's in the alignment, what's right off the first dinner date. You can find that out. If you're strategic in your questions or just listening to what he or she is saying. But we're talking to the men, so what she's saying. Okay, so you get on the first date, the second date. 3 days, you know. The this is where it goes. You can find it all on the second date. 3 days a week. You can learn how to you can find this out.
I think you're breaking up, Ronnie. I don't, because I'm still on Facebook. You're
What?
breaking up tremendously. You're breaking up tremendously. Okay, so I don't know. Ronnie's gonna come back. So when he comes back, I'll be able to bring him back in. So he was saying a rebuttal to what I was saying about intentional dating. And all that he said is correct. But then here's my rebuttal to that particular statement. Um, okay, I think he's back. Before I reply to it, let me see if I could bring him back.
Okay, I'm sorry. So there must be some parts. I was dropping some gems, ladies and gentlemen. Let me tell you right now, I was on fire. But
Listen,
listen,
God got a sense of humor.
listen. You need to have faith in dating. Period. Listen, we all in a perfect world. October's here, cuffing season. We in, and at the end of it, then you meet Mr. Him and Her. That's not the way it happened. That's just usually what not the way it happens. It happens in times when you least expect it. I've had men and women over the years. When I tell you the last thing they believed in was meeting Mr. or Mrs. Right, I'm telling you, Ronnie Walker could not say anything to these men and women. And in the middle of said season, when they least expected, boom, they meet this person and they get married. It's amazing. So what I'm saying is that in this world of dating that we are in, I don't care how evolved it's become, what we don't have control of sometime is when we meet him or her. But how much the faith do you have in your faith, do you have in yourself that you're going to be ready? And I mean fully ready if you're an intentional man to meet her and you're cuffing one, two, three women. I get it. You're getting your immediate needs met. And I think that's part of the challenge that we're having in this world of dating that is so evolved is that we're too busy chasing microwave results instead of letting things slow cook in the oven, slow cook in the slow cooker, or whatever it is, because we're just we can't get to a damn winter. Hell, you went all spring, summer, and fall. Now winter, you figure that if you don't find somebody, have someone to watch Netflix with, it's going to be the end of the world. Really? Now, mind you, in full disclosure, I've experienced cuffing. I listen. I know that's really not hard for a man. And men, if you listen to me, that's no problem. But again, there's a difference between going through the motions or your particular style of dating, and then there is a man who is intentional and says, listen, if I'm cuffing with any damn body, it's going to be a woman that I want to be a forever, ever after. And you know what that may mean? That may mean that the winter of 2022, you may be by your damn self, or at the very least, dating and have met someone that she may possibly be the one. But what you're not doing is going with the flow and just going with everybody and say, listen, I'm not going to be going out to the clubs or going out on dates anyhow. So you know what? Right now, she's the best looking option that she's got. Let me just go cuff this. She knows, I know, we're consensual. God bless you both. I just think that in those spaces, and especially, it's one thing if you're in your 20s and you're cuffing. It's a whole nother thing when you're in your 30s and 40s and 50s cuffing. At what point are you going to have full faith in yourself that from January to December, you're going to meet somebody? And if you don't, it's okay. It's okay. But again, date how you wish. I'm just giving you, when I tell you that I'm coming here with what I feel is going to be your best option, then that's what it is. So giving your energy and time to someone who you know and she knows you're both not going to be for each other, that's great. And if it works for you, and listen, if it's you, I'm not saying it's not fun. Don't get me wrong. I'll be the first one to tell you. And I can give you the pointers of how to have the most incredible, exceptional cuffing season. Hell, I should do an ebook on that. But I'm just saying, again, at some point, is that really what you really want? Or do you want to cuff with someone you want to be season after season after season with? And the choice is yours.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and jump in because
Please, because I'm done.
literally, I forgot what I was gonna say a long time I did. You know, me and my mind. Okay, but what I will say is this. Here's the thing. I think that sometimes people think that we live in a perfect world. And that was something
Right.
that you mentioned before you got cut off when you were talking about red flags and things like that. Listen, I am a stickler for red flags. I listen, from a conversation, I can get a red flag if I'm looking for it, right? If I'm looking for it, or sometimes a red flag will jump out and attack you, right? But then
That's true.
at the same time, what I'm ultimately saying is that I want somebody to adjust to my bullshit. That's what I'm ultimately saying. That's why I call it a red flag, because see, what you see as acceptable, the next person may not see as acceptable, and vice versa. And
And that's
so if
okay.
people, so when we sit here and talk about, we're with someone, there's a red flag, or we be intentional, we cuff, we don't cuff. I made a video today, and I was talking to somebody earlier, because for me this is a whole just drawn out map of everything, right? And this is what I wish people would learn to say about when it comes to, because some people, because if we apply, and here's why I said that, if we applied that principle that you just said, there would be a whole bunch of more single people out here in the world that would have been single long before we became in our 40s and 50s. Okay, if we applied that principle, right? Just sit and wait. But what it is that we trust in a faith that maybe the things that we think is wrong may soon be later on be right. You don't know, because sometimes people do evolve, people do change, right? So if we apply that principle, what we're really saying is that everybody is perfect. But see, if people just sit back and say this thing right here, when people say, why are you single? Especially for the people who ain't never been married, ain't never did none of that. When you say, why are you single? What you should learn to say is that at the end of the day, I haven't met anybody that's willing to take my bullshit. And if we just say that to ourselves, we can really see who we are. And see, here's the thing, what I understand about that. Because see, I know that I'm at that place in my life twofold, because I feel like I've done the work. I've through trials and tribulations, whatever it may be, I've moved some pieces around and I understand certain things. But at the end of the day, when I say people have truly done work, I'm not talking about the ones who truly did it. I'm talking about if there's still work that needs to be done and we're not recognizing it, if we use that principle that you just talked about. Okay, because what a person is really saying is that I haven't met anybody that's willing to take my bullshit, one. And number two, the people that I have met that I want, that meets all my check blocks, they won't take my bullshit. But the people that will take it, I don't want them people. And that's what's really going on. So once everybody who live in this world of is either black or white, because it's not always black or white. Sometimes we want to believe in the fact that people will grow and evolve. If I knew what I knew now as a 49-year-old woman, I would not have got married at 18 or 27. But here's the thing. I may not never have had kids, because there are some people who do all those things. Because at the end of the day, my mindset, what was important to me at 18 is not important to me at 49. It's not. I'm not literally it's not. Because back then I was about the hustle. Let's get to the hustle. I'm like, listen, I ain't moving too fast for nothing. I'm not even on time for appointments. You understand what I'm saying? So what I'm telling you is that the mindset changed, not just about the bad things, but the good things too, right? The mindset changes, because you know what? When you get older, you realize, listen, I ain't about to rush and do nothing. I'm about to take my time. But when you're young, you think you're supposed to be like this all the time. So what I'm saying is that the things don't apply no more. So through that evolution of people, you hope that the people that you started with, somehow you are changed together miraculously. Some people do, and some people don't. Some people also just learn to accept it for what it is and say, you know what? I'm okay with this too. Because regardless of what it is, That's the first thing. Be accepting that the reason why I'm single is because I haven't found anybody that's willing to tolerate my bullshit. That's it. So I don't know what all you said 10 minutes ago.
Okay,
Okay.
so I think that's something got lost in translation. So
Yeah.
that's what I did. But never, ever in my life and in my profession have I ever said stand and wait. Never. Never, 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 never. What I'm saying is that again, in this space, and it's funny how the time when we have more time, God willing, in our 20s, teens and 20s and early 30s, that for some reason we're here. But what I find is I listen to people who are really all about the cuffing season, is they're the ones who are living lives in this sort of succinct, perfect space where I'm going to be actively dating, from January all the way till October. Come October till December is cuffing season. I haven't found her. So now you've taken yourself on the dating market and you've checked this one person who and she knows that you both are not compatible in all the bigger picture. But hell, you can get some orgasm in the midst of it. You share some TV time. Great. And then you're going to go back on the market come January 1st, because now it's new year, new me. We all know how that goes. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to do all of this. So to me, it's like you found someone to put up with your BS during the cuffing season because there's some things you need to change. You probably you didn't want to change or whatever. But, and again, let's call cuffing season what it really is sometimes for some people. And it's not trying to build anything together. At least from what I hear people describe cuffing season as, it's just someone that is filling a space and time to get your rocks off. And again, if that's how you move, do you. I'm not judging you. I'm just saying that I'm thinking that if the same effort that you're going to put from January to October, you can put from October to December too. Who said standing still letting grass grow under your feet? No, I never said that. Okay, so you go to the same spot. Hell, now we have dating apps. Now you can sit in the comfort of your home no matter what the season is and swipe left and swipe right. So you could still go to the same bar or different bar. You can still get planes still fly, trains still run on the train, the car still works. And the winter, just like, okay, now you have to put on extra clothes. All right. Is she worth it? I would like to think that she is. Get on a plane and go fly, see her, because not all relationships are local. Some of them are long distance. Okay, I get it. You don't want to put on a turtleneck. But again, is she worth the turtleneck and the heavy coat to get on the plane to go see her? Well, then make that decision if that's who it is.
Mm-hmm.
But instead, we want to stay local and then settle with this person because we don't want to make the efforts. And again, like I said early in what there's a price of admission to dating. And I find far too many people sometimes don't want to pay their price. And I tell people, pay it now or pay it later, but pay it you must. So you want to show up healthy. And so whatever chance people want to make that the minuscule chance that you'll meet somebody in your cuffing season, it's possible. It happens all the time. And I think it happens more often when people are willing to share. But again, if you understand human nature, we are often geared to take the path of least resistance. And that happens a lot in dating. And again, life isn't perfect. I will never, ever say that. Life isn't black and white. There is some gray area. But let me tell you this, sometimes parts of life is black and white. And so the part of the growth and evolvement is learning which one is black and white and which one isn't black and white. But again, however you choose, ladies and gentlemen, if you're all about cuffing season, do you. If
Well,
you're not, or
enough.
whatever, but just like I said, and to your point, Yasheka, and I'll finish on this. If you're going to play that role, make sure the other person knows Don't put that person into positions where they think that there's something that there isn't. And I really it lets if you're gonna date ethically. If you're gonna cuff ethically. Let him or her know this is what this is, and let them make the decision. And I understand why some people don't, because they figure that they know this person well enough that if they said that and presented that, they wouldn't do that. Well, then trust me, there's people who are aligned with you if you're so inclined to stay on that path. But again, that is a space. And that's what I'm going to say about that.
Well, what I was going to say is, so we talked about one side of it that we saw, but one of the positives that I think that cuffing season brings is an opportunity for, you know, this is the season actually where some people are more intentional about dating. Like, according to, some of the dating apps and the statistics, especially men, their search on dating apps is more intentional during this particular time of year because they are more in the house. They are more settled, right? And because of this, some relationships, some positive and some relationships that have flourished and that's led to marriage came from because of the men taking the time. Because see, in the summertime, men are trying to do what people do in the summertime. They're trying to work more. They're trying to do all these different things, travel, maybe meet with their buddies, just do what, just enjoy themselves, whatever. But for whatever reason, during this particular time, because they're not doing all those things as much, they tend to be more intentional. So whether or not the relationship leads to marriage or not, I think that it's a good thing because it allows because I get it. Men can compartmentalize. They sometimes can only do one thing at a time sometimes, right? And so because of that, if that's the time that they're able to really be focused on it, then so be it. So I think that's one of the positives that comes out of this particular time of year. So what about you? You see positive in it?
Listen, I think what you're describing, again, this is my perception. What I'm hearing is that a man becomes more focused. If you're talking about cuffing season, let's be clear what cuffing season is. Now, we say cuffing season is friends with benefit with an end date, beginning date, expiration date. So if you're talking about a man who becomes more intentional, well, then he may be more intentional in his dating space because, again, he's not willing to go spend as much time and as much money all over the place because of the weather. But that doesn't sound like cuffing. If you're going to cuff, then cuff. Again, to me, this is the black and white part. If you're cuffing, cuff. If you're dating with the intentions of having a long-term relationship and marriage, then that's what it is. This trying to, and this is a challenge that I have because I speak to so many people and they really try to interact and intersect and enter all of these things and morph these things into something that I'm like, no. And they try to force a gray area. And I'm like, no. If this is what you want from this woman, make it be known. If this is what you want from this woman, make it be known. But if you're going to go with this, well, we're going to do the cuffing, and maybe possibly if the stars align and Jupiter's along with Mercury, then we may end up being married. Well, go with the flow then. Then that's what it sounds like to me. This is what it sounds like to me. Now, does that mean it happens sometimes? Yes. The challenge is that we will take these extreme situations and make them the rule when really what they are is an exception. And so if you want to take the chance, again, no judgment, go do it. But you're either cuffing or you're dating with intention. Black, white. Whatever you choose to call black is black. Whatever you choose to call white is white. To me, there is no gray area. And that's the key to me when I talk about intentional dating to men. Be real clear about this woman. Because one thing men will know, They know whether this woman is going to be the fun woman or they know this woman is a potential woman that they want to spend the rest of their life with. Any man who's telling you he's still kind of whatever, I'm going to ask how many times he's been on dates. And based on what he's been on and has learned, I can call BS on what he's saying or not. Because I know men as a man. I know. If you know what you're looking for, you know who you are as a man, every woman you interact with, you know over a certain amount of time, I don't care whether it's 5 minutes or 25 minutes, you know whether this woman, yeah, I can smash her and she'll be good for some conversation here or there. But that's about it. Or, you know what? This woman intrigues me. She fascinates me. And before we get to that point, let me just get to know her a little bit more. Men know this. I'm telling you, Yasheka, men know this. So if they're in their dating apps and they are more intentional with regards to what the studies say, because I read these studies too, you're either more intentional in your dating or you're cuffing. Again, to me, it's black and white to me. That's my piece on that.
So you don't have no positives about it, is what you're telling me.
Positives about cuffing?
Yeah, the cuffing season.
If you're in it for cuffing and she agrees with cuffing, positive. Yes. You both agree that this is what it is. You agree on the start date. You agree on the end date. Do you? But like you said, if one knows and one doesn't know, this is what it is. I'm just saying that if you're intentional, cuffing season should not be part of her repertoire. That's all I'm saying. If you're intentional 12, 20, 7, 24, 24/7, 365. If you're intentional, you're intentional. Be confident in who you are and know who you are, the exceptional man that you are, and you're going to find her. And that just may happen during cuffing season. But if you're going with the flow and you're just out here and, date here, date there, and you're just going on because you still got it going on, whatever the case may be, cuff away. I speak to far too many men and women who spent too many times cuffing season when they should have been intentional.
Well, so, on that note, I guess when I think about cuffing, because in the 90s, I never heard of cuffing, but I guess when I think about cuffing, there's a possibility that maybe I was cuffing when I started dating my ex. Now, I don't know, but I've heard some good things about cuffing to the point where I'm interested in it this year. And I'm really interested because I figure why.
Yep, I can't hear you.
Can you?
You were breaking up. You're still something.
Okay, well, I'm not sure what's going on.
Okay, now you're back. Okay, you're back. You just said you're still interested.
Okay, because I'm looking over here at myself and seeing what's going on. But I was saying that, I'm looking at everything and I'm like, you know what? I've never cuffed before. Maybe I'll give it a try this year and see what happens, because my last cuffing season, if we're just going by off the dates of it, a marriage came out of it. So maybe I can get lucky again if I try it again this year. So I'm pretty intrigued about cuffing season this year. So we'll see. But on that note, Ronnie, go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about where they can find us at.
You can find us on datingdiscussionslive.com. You can also find us on Instagram at RonnieandYasheka. And you can also find us on Facebook and Ronnie and Yasheka Dating Discussions.
All right, Ronnie. Well, I appreciate it as always. I think we got through some of the static, some of the something. I don't know, but we'll get it together though. And as always, it's my pleasure, and I will see you next time. Have a good night.
Have a good night, everybody. Good night.